So we're Chaotian, and this is Andreas. He's on drums, and I'm Søren on guitars, and we're both on vocals. And Chaotian is a death metal band from Copenhagen, Denmark, and we've been playing ever since 2017.
Yep.
So what's the story or significance behind the band name Chaotian? Chaotian is a time eon in geological history, and it's essentially the formation of Earth. And back then, everything was just chaotic. It was like hell on Earth, and I thought that was pretty cool. And I asked the rest of the band if they thought so too, and I think we just agreed that it was a pretty good band name that symbolizes what we wanted from the music: something chaotic, something evil sounding, and just everything death metal.
Yeah, and it's quite difficult to find a fitting band name which is not already taken, so we tried to kind of find a band name we couldn't find on the internet. So yeah, that's also one of the reasons. Yeah,
it's basically why we chose something we barely can pronounce ourselves. Yeah. But it's a band name that signifies something death metal. So yeah. Can you share some insights into the creative process behind Effigies of Obsolescence? So Effigies of Obsolescence is our first full-length album, and in many ways it's kind of the conclusion to all the things we did on the demos. As you can see, there's at least one track from the demo time, which is Festering Carcinolith, and then we have two from the single that, it's the single to the album that came out some years prior. And the whole creative insight is basically just us writing songs that we felt sounded like Chaotian in the early days, and I think we got a pretty good result out of that. It sounds pretty natural. We didn't want to do anything that we weren't used to. We just wanted to write a Chaotian album from the perspective of 2021 when we recorded it.
Yeah, I think we pretty much just wrote some songs, and we kind of in the group discussed if that's every song that would fit the album, and after we had like 7 songs, which is like 39 minutes in total, the album, we thought it would be cool to just record that pretty much.
I think the only thing we didn't record before we went in was the samples. One of them was pretty much prepared before we went in to record everything.
Yeah.
But the rest was kind of done in the studio, and then a mix between your work at home and then Lasse, the producer's work in the studio, and then me blowing into various whistles and making sounds and stuff like that.
And we only booked like 8 days for the whole album, which is not that much in my opinion compared to another album I'm doing right now. So we had to know how to play all this stuff pretty good, and we didn't have any like time to do some improvise or anything at all. So yeah, what you hear is what we prepared pretty much.
I think that's a very good way of putting it. It's sort of what Chaotian could do in 2021 in an 8-day period, with as much preparation as we could realistically do for that album. So I think it turned out quite well. The next question is what themes and emotions did you explore in this release? Well,
emotions.
Well, I mean, emotions, there's a lot of anger, I suppose. There's a lot of feelings of hopelessness. I'm very fascinated when it comes to themes, at least with, apocalyptic things and the end of everything. And I think that also ties in quite well with the whole geological origin, because that is essentially just a record of when exactly the Earth was completely annihilated, and then just a few niches of creatures survived to the next eon. But I think, yeah, it's very much a hopeless and chaotic. I think chaotic is the word that we go back to all the time, and just remains a very big part of our understanding of the band. It is of course not as chaotic as maybe the the recordings and the sound on the demo, but I think in many ways we convey the chaos and the and that sense of hopelessness and anger in the music, at least in our perspective. So I would say that those are pretty big themes.
Yeah.
Of course, there's also death and the regular themes on a much smaller scale. So it's not just lots of doomsday prophecy bullshit.
Yeah, I kind of feel the hopelessness too during the whole process of recording it, because then you really feel how bad you really are as a musician. So, yeah.
Yeah. The next question would be, could you give us some background on the album cover art and how it connects to the music? So, the album cover was made by Alexander Gjerdevikskø, who is a local artist, visual artist that has worked with mainly within video games and other models for concept arts and such. But it was actually Jonas, our bassist at the time, and who was also the bassist on the album. He had a connection to him in some way. I think a friend of his knew of him.
Yeah.
And then we got his portfolio, and we really liked his stuff. And we thought it was really cool to have a local guy do it. And he took the commission from us, which was essentially we wanted, well, I think first of what we did was we went for a color scheme, and we wanted to have something red and hellish looking, because that is kind of what we felt would be a fitting theme and a fitting color scheme as well. And then I have references to Moloch and the Topheth and everything, which is associated with child sacrifice, like through burning, and I think that became a big part in the painting indirectly, and also the whole cavernous theme, which you can also see on our demo compilation, Festering Excarnation. He kind of went a bit further with that one, and the river Styx, or whatever you could call it. It kind of looks like it anyway. But I mean, in many ways, there wasn't a very, very strong connection from our side. We kind of let Alexander just do what he felt like, and we gave him all the resources, all the music we had recorded, and all the lyrics and everything, and then we just let him go nuts. And he has a very strange mind and a very creative heart, so he came up with something pretty cool that I don't think any of us had ever even considered. So it ties in from a distance away from the band, so to speak, and I think that is really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, you want to take the next?
But then how was your cooperation?
How was your cooperation with Misako and Oho, Dark Descent, Extremely Rotten Bin, and how did it influence the album's production?
All right. Well, the first label we got in touch with was Extreme Rotten Productions. It started from our first demo where it got Excarnate from 2018. I think Søren, he wrote to David and asked if he knew any we could record the demo at, and he suggested Tuna from Hyperdontia and whole other bands. And when we finished that demo, we sent it to him, and he was willing to release it on tape through his label Extreme Rotten. And pretty much after that, we released another demo, Festering Casinolith, and he released that as well on a demo tape. And I don't remember exactly how we ended up, but we did a compilation with those two demos, and through David,
well,
we
it was
got
sort
in
of
touch with the other guys.
So, well, Indirectly, yeah. I had contacted David. I'd been in touch with him for a while and just writing back and forth. And then I went to his shop a few times and showed him the progress we had. And when we had everything recorded, we showed it to him, and he was willing to put it out. And he put it out, and it got a nice amount of traction. And Jesus from Misako Noho, he wrote me and asked if he could release it for us because he was a big fan of it. And I think pretty much the same afternoon, Matt from Dark Descent, he wrote me as well and was like, yeah, well, I'm not really taking any new bands into my roster, but I absolutely want you guys there. And that was a big thing for us, because I remember when we started the band, we very much looked up to the bands on Dark Descent. So I remember us talking about it being one of the things that we kind of would be fun to do.
We weren't a part of any like scene here in Copenhagen, so we had to start kind of from the bottom, because we didn't know any other bands here in Copenhagen. So it's like a big process for us to release through those big labels, in our opinions, and to get to know all the other local bands, death metal bands here in Copenhagen as well.
Of course, the connection with David is very strong because, well, he's here in Copenhagen and we know him very well. He's a good friend of ours. So the cooperation with him has been very easy, and it's been for this album, and wasn't that major because it was really Misako Noho and Dark Descent that injected an amount of cash into it and kind of arranged for everything. But those three labels have always had a very close connection and been working together for many releases. And
David did the logo, and he did also the layouts for the releases we've released, including our single at the Passat Feast, and where he did the front of it.
So he was very invested in the release, but in other ways maybe than in the releases prior to it. And I think the fact that you knew that you had the support from the labels and you had the support from your friends around in the scene here was very nice, and it helped us record the album in due time and without much hassle. We didn't have to go out and try and find someone who actually wanted to release our shit. So it was really straightforward.
Yeah.
Very easygoing, I think.
Yeah.
So.
And regarding the influence on the production of the album, I think we didn't make like big attentions to how they wanted it to sound. I think we pretty much just wanted to sound how we like the kind of the production of it. But after all, I think the production fits the labels pretty good.
Yeah. They didn't have a hand in anything really on that front. We just kind of sent it over and was like, yeah, this is it. Yeah. And thankfully, Jesus was a big fan of it, and Matt was a fan of it too, as far as I know. So, it worked out quite well. In your opinion, is having a label deal crucial in today's music industry? I would not say so. I wouldn't say that it's crucial. You can do a lot on your own. But I think in many ways, knowing what to do when you don't have a label is pretty hard from the get-go. I mean, it's very easy to record music and have it mixed and mastered and everything. I think most people can get a lot of help on that front. But releasing stuff, if you never burnt a CD in your life and you're pretty young, well, I can imagine that wouldn't be easy. Or if you didn't know how to put stuff on digital media, then that would be a bit difficult. But I would say, in short, you can get your music out there without any problems at all. You can put it up on Bandcamp, and if it garners attraction and if it's stuff that people like, then you will get access to labels and such if you want. But I wouldn't say that it's crucial. I wouldn't even say it's completely crucial if you're a bigger band, because as far as I know, many bands just kind of work with distribution. We haven't even signed a deal, so to speak, with all these labels. They just distribute it, and then we have deals, like ongoing agreements, so to speak. So it's not maybe what people think a record label deal is. It's definitely not a negative thing for us, so that is why we have 3 of them working at the moment.
I think like the bigger labels like Century Media and stuff, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure you have to like make signature on a contract, and then you have to do kind of make a deal with them. We haven't done that yet. We just pretty much made agreements with the other labels, and I think that we are more like the DIY style when people release our stuff, but we don't need to do stuff we want through the labels. We just pretty much do what we want, and if the labels are up for releasing it, we agree to do that, but we don't have a contract. But it's definitely a lot easier to release music and through like labels, because they can promote your stuff and they already have like a network, and so it's definitely easier, but not like crucial, in my opinion either.
I would agree. So when did you first start listening to death metal, and what led you to discover and become a fan of the genre?
Oh, well, death metal was not like the first metal genre I heard. It started when I was like 11 or 12 years old, when I listened to Metallica, and then it kind of developed. I think my first like memory of like death metal is the Congregation when they played in Copenhagen 2014. Of course, I knew Suffocation, Cannibal Corpse, Immolation, all those bands, but it was when I saw the Congregation for the first time, I was kind of really fucking digged it, and wanted to explore it even more, because at the time I was more to like thrash metal, like Overkill, Metallica, Slayer, all those bands. So I think it was like almost 10 years ago. I loved the genre.
I think for me, I think it started when I was in high school. I lived pretty far away from Copenhagen, in a small town down south, and there weren't that many people into metal at all. I had to find most of it myself. I mean, of course, people listen to Rammstein or Metallica or stuff like that, but I listened to that, and then I got curious, and I started hanging out with some people that listened to harder and harder stuff. And my brother showed me Death. I think it was Sound of Perseverance. And I was pretty hooked. I mean, I wasn't a big fan maybe of the vocals in the start. I didn't really understand it. But then I started to listen to it more and more, and I got more and more addicted to it. But I would say back then I was more like Andreas, more into thrash, listened to a lot of Megadeth and Overkill and Dark Angel and Sodom and stuff like that. And I think with time I got more and more into the to many of the American bands, especially the Floridan scene and Autopsy, and of course, and such. And it just continued and continued for the coming years. And I think thrash, I was a big fan of that. And when we started the band, we initially wanted it to sound like Demolition Hammer, and wanted maybe some like stuff like Dark Angel and such. And I think we recorded one song that had a lot of inspirations from that, and then I don't know, we just decided to be okay, well, fuck it, we don't want to it to just sound like thrash, we just want it to be death metal, so we can also do some of the doomy stuff we like as well, and brutal stuff and whatnot. So I think for us it's been very organic. It's just been us having inspirations from many different genres in metal, and ultimately we just wanted to play death metal because it allowed us to do what we wanted to do. So yeah, I think I started listening to it when back in 2011, 10 maybe. So if you could change one thing about the music industry, what would it be?
Well, I always keep coming back to how people act when they kind of feel a part of like the music industry. Thankfully, I haven't seen that much like in death metal, but it tends to, for some reason, when you feel like a rock star or whatever, you become kind of arrogant. So basically, for me, I think it's how you act in front of other people. People starting getting like shitheads when they become like a part of it. But yeah, it's a difficult question to answer. one thing to change.
Yeah, I think there's many things I would love to change. I think, but yeah, absolutely. I think the whole idea that you're better than other people just simply because you play music, I think that's pretty pathetic, especially considering the fact that, I mean, we just do all this for fun, and we love doing it, but it's not, you're not exactly riding, a Porsche or something like that. You're not super rich, and I think one thing I might want to see a change for the future would be that a more, understanding for any artist, and I think that goes within any kind of creative industry, that you stop industrializing everything essentially, and make sure that the artists get paid. I think that is one thing I would really like to see, that there are better work conditions, so to speak, and at least a bigger appreciation of the work that you do apart from just exposure and, yeah, I suppose that is really it. Have you encountered any memorable epic fails during live performances?
Well, for me, I think it happened like 3 times already. While I'm playing the drums, one of the cymbal stands are falling over me while I'm playing, and I don't have time to like move it because I have to play with both feet and hands. So I guess that could be epic fails. I had to get help from others, so to move the stand from me while I'm playing. If anybody have seen it, it pretty much looked like an epic fail, maybe. Yeah.
I wouldn't say that Chaotian has really had any epic fails or anything like that. We've had some funny stories like that, but yeah, no, I would say we've been pretty lucky on that front. But I have experience where my amp would just cut out. I remember in Toronto was the last time where we played like halfway through, maybe 2/3 of the first song. And we have all this intro and shit, and then the amp just cuts out completely. And we don't know why, and we spent so much time, and people waiting, and I'm just standing up there on stage, sweating my ass off and thinking, oh fuck. And well, it turns out it wasn't the amp, it was me who was an idiot and just unplugged my pedals or something like that. I think it was my power supply. And we got it fixed though, thankfully, due to Sedimentum working quick. And yeah, we got the show running and everything was fine. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's been ever like catastrophical, so to speak.
Nope.
Are there any recent music or movies that have deeply impressed you?
Deeply impressed? Well, I like to watch movies, but I'm not like a nerd or anything, so
I am.
It's kind of difficult for me to mention anything, but like musically, well, there are a few like death metal releases I like, but yeah, well, I can mention Virulence to Paroxysm is one of those bands we'd like to play with. Yeah, what else? It's always difficult to remember all this shit. Yeah, do you have anything to...
Deeply impressed? I don't know if I'm just getting old and tired of everything. But well, maybe I can start out with movies. I've fuck, what was it? Well, it's this Danish show, and I know that Andreas is a big fan of that as well.
The Kingdom, it's in
Yeah,
English.
The Kingdom in English. Yeah, it's a show about the local hospital in Copenhagen and how in the building that is very highly technological, it's kind of rotting away, and the what could you say, the spirit world is forcing itself upon all this industry, or the other way around. And it's a really interesting movie, and it sounds very serious and dark, and it is dark, but it's not very serious. It's essentially a comedy in a way.
It's good combination of horror and humor, and it's very Danish very humor.
Danish. I was really impressed by the new season called Exodus, and it's been many years. I think like late 90s when it was last aired. So that was a lot of fun for me to watch, and a big influence. And I like things strange and such and weird.
Yeah, everybody died in real life in the series. So it took almost more than 20 years to finish the series. It was supposed to be like 3 seasons, but after the second season, everybody died, all the actors. So it took
not every single one, quite literally, but quite a few people died.
At least 3 or 4.
That was pretty bad, honestly. But I mean, music-wise, I've been kind of listening more to the old bands, like the old releases a lot. I've been listening to a lot of jazz fusion as well this summer, and I think, I don't know, like in terms of death metal, I've been pretty impressed by the newest Ascended Dead release. I really like that one, and I like the demo by Malformed that David also released for Extreme Run Productions, and absolutely also a big fan of Reverence to Paroxysm. I think that is a really good record. Those are at least the ones off the top of my mind or head. So, what are your thoughts on the future of death metal as a genre? Well, I think a lot of stuff is happening.
Death metal has existed since like late 80s,
mid 80s.
So it's already kind of an old kind of style. But when we started playing death metal, we felt it already peaked in that time, like in 2018, and from there it just pretty much been stable in some way. So hopefully the future will bring like people are still willing to pay to see the bands live. At least for us, it's still opportunity to travel around and play shows abroad. Mainly for me, that's pretty much my motivation for playing, is like to explore, the world pretty much.
It's a big thing for us as a band to get out and see a lot of stuff and get all these experiences with touring and writing albums and writing music that we enjoy. But I think the future for death metal, I don't know. I mean, I think it's in pretty good hands right now. I think things have been happening pretty steadily. I mean, they have for many years, like way before we even got into it. But I think it's in a pretty good place now, and it's not just. When I was a kid, I remember there was a lot of focus on the slam kind of stuff, and then there was deathcore, and everyone was like, "Oh, is this the new death metal, so to speak?" And obviously not. And then you have kind of this resurgence of the older style. I am not a big fan of the term OSDM or old school death metal, because it's not, and I don't think what we do is old school necessarily. Of course, there's a lot of inspiration from it, but I don't know. I think there's that, and then there's also the whole disso death or dissonant death metal thing that's going on right now. So I think people are doing interesting things with death metal and trying out new stuff, and I really don't know what the future will be like, but I feel like it's quite strong. I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. So, can you describe the current death metal scene in Copenhagen? Well, it's this room.
The room we are sitting in is the death metal place here. No, well, it seems that it's almost like the 10 to 15 same people starting new projects. Yeah, but at least I think the releases and the new projects coming out is pretty decent in my opinion. So it seems that everybody who familiar with death metal, they do have kind of connection to Copenhagen. So yeah, I think it's pretty strong, but it's very small, just like Denmark.
Yeah. It's pretty much. I mean, the question was Copenhagen death metal specifically, and the scene is, like Andreas said, essentially the people in this room that play in the various bands like Fredlith, Taphos, Taphos don't play here, and they aren't active anymore. And then you have bands like Septic and Stryknos, Sequestrum, Onagang, obviously. I mean, there's a lot of bands out there, and there's also a bunch of new, younger bands coming out. And, I mean, it's in a pretty good state, but maybe you would love to see a few more new bands coming out. I think that would be nice. I remember when we came out, it was already kind of seen as an older scene that has been going on for a while. And then we came in as the new guys and such, and I think now it's kind of like we've been integrated so much, and there was really, as far as I know, only us as an active new death metal band at that point in time in Copenhagen. So
yeah, there are some newer bands out of this rehearsal room. But one of those, what is the name? Postal and Flesh. I haven't seen them live yet, but
you haven't played with them.
I have played with them, but I came later.
Oh, right.
But yeah, maybe they are one of the new bands. Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, they are definitely a new death metal band, and still very young, doing lots of stuff these days and recording new music, and yeah, Endless Glory as well. It's a new death metal band who's also very good. What's your top favorite death metal album of all time and why? I hate questions like that.
It's difficult to mention one album, but I would say
I feel like I wouldn't surprise anyone if I said Dawn of Possession.
Yeah, I was kind of either Incantation, Small Throne of Nazarene, or Immolation, Here and After. One of them for sure.
But I feel like one album that is a huge inspiration to me, and you can hear that very clearly on many of our recordings, is To the Depths and Degradation by Infestor. I am a very, very big fan of that.
Yeah, me too.
Release, and it's. I remember when I heard it first time around, I didn't quite understand what was going on, but I thought it sounded really evil and really cool and full of riffs. I love riffs, and I think that changed my view of death metal and the way I thought the genre was. So I think that one was a huge deal for me, and still is. So that might be my favorite album.
Yeah.
But I honestly feel like there are moments where I would say that one, and moments where I would probably say stuff like Dawn of Possession. Other times maybe Altars of Madness, or Covenant, or yeah, I don't know, so many different ones. But what plans do you have for the future of Chaotian?
Well, I guess more of what we're doing now, playing shows, release albums, hopefully yeah, hopefully that. But yeah, next year we're going to hopefully release 2 different split releases with some different Danish death metal bands, and then we going to Mexico and play 6 shows, which is Grand Destroy, who's the host for those shows, and hopefully we're doing a tour in Europe in fall, but it's pretty new still, so we have to wait. But yeah, more of it all,
more live shows and new music, and well, actually we're down here today because we were recording for one of those split releases, so yeah, it's interesting, and we're going to be releasing new stuff, hopefully not too soon, not too late, because we want
not too soon.
Not too soon. Yeah, not too soon either. But yeah, any message for Death Metal Promotion channel subscribers?
Well,
I would say stay sick.
Yeah, stay sick, and thanks if you watched the whole interview.
Yeah.
I hope we don't sound too boring, and our English is too bad.
I hope it is.
But yeah, thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll see you around wherever you are. We'd like to go there, for sure.
Into where you live.
Yeah. If you have a good couch, we
will
offer.
Sleep on it.
Yeah.
We might not leave.
We like couches.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stay sick.